Hi guys, we're back, but we're elsewhere. Nadia just said, I hate your face
I
with
said,
glasses.
I miss your face without glasses.
I miss my face without glasses. I hate it when I see myself in a thumbnail. I go, God almighty, why have I got glasses on? I just hate it. So we'll wait for people to come back because, of course, it just cut out again like yesterday, which is so frustrating. So frustrating.
So
Hi,
where
guys.
were we? We were talking about Putin, weren't we?
Yeah. No, the thing that really frustrates me about it is that the West, as much as Putin, are talking over the heads of Ukraine.
They keep saying Ukraine. Can the West please stop talking about this? You know, you're just dramatising it. They've lived with the fear of this war for 8 years.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and we've come in and we're just clodhoppering over them all.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's imminent. Every day Liz Truss is telling us it's about to bloody happen.
Yeah, and the Ukraine just keeps saying, oh, careful.
Oh, sorry,
For God's sake, guys, just lay off.
Yeah.
Lay off and perhaps let us discuss it and let us try and sort it out. But anyway, I mean, I think the mood music, as they say, the mood music is potentially positive, but I think Putin is reserving the right to kind of, smack Ukraine, if you like. I mean, I think all of this is about Putin wanting to show up the fractures within Europe and the Western alliance. He's already kind of done it because Germany is ensnared in a sort of energy dependency on Russia. France went off on their own to go and do something. He's trying to constantly, highlight the splits in Europe. I mean, the thing is, Putin, if he goes to war, his country is going to be under inordinate economic pressure, and they already are under economic pressure. It's like you said, think of the Russian soldiers in that horrendous landscape and conditions.
I always think of those because you see clips of them sort of trudging through the snow, and you think, these are just conscripts. These are just young men that have been kept out there in the snow for how long?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, and the thing is, apparently Putin is very worried about bringing back casualties back to Russia. The Russian people don't have the stomach for it. I said to Mark, God, my fear is he'd just leave them there. He wouldn't even bring them home. So the poor Russian people in the midst of all of this.
Absolutely.
And of course, they don't get any real news either.
It's just broken on the Times again. Russia claims troops are withdrawing.
Good.
I mean, this is, he's peacocking, says Steffi Quinlan. Absolutely, flying.
Cock being the operative word.
Peacocking. They're all teenagers, says Caesar, for most part, on all sides. Always is. Old men create wars, young men fight
die
them.
for them.
And you know about
Exactly.
that. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that, I think, the reason we plop that in there is we've talked a lot about the Ukraine crisis, and a lot of you go, oh, please don't mention Ukraine. It's too petrifying to behold, isn't it? But the movements are in the good way.
It's going a good way at the minute. So let's keep praying for all those poor souls that are involved in it. Of course, it affects the whole world, but the immediacy of those people and the fear that they're living with, 70-year-olds trying to work out how to use a gun. I mean,
Ego war, says Remake W.
Ego war, exactly.
Yeah. And also, the other thing I would stress, just before we jump off this, it's interesting watching Boris, rush to try and push his position within this. Often war and conflicts, think of Thatcher and the Falklands, it's a great distraction from domestic issues. And so my worry, Biden is seriously unpopular in the States. So my worry is that this is an opportunity for Biden and Boris to flag people's attention away, or fan people's attention away from all the insufficiencies that's going on, in their own countries. So, and the thing is, it's very hard to prove that, and it's very hard to say that, because of course diplomacy does have to happen, and that's how sort of conniving politics can be sometimes. So that frustrates. Now, this topic, I want to know your opinion on this, Ned. No more sir and miss in the classroom. How do we feel about that? No more, you can't call them sir and you can't call them miss. This is being recommended by a charity in the classroom, obviously in order to be more accepting of the LGBT community, using pronouns or mixed pronouns instead of Mr., Mrs. or Sir or Miss.
What would it be then?
Teacher.
Teacher.
Teacher. You know what I find about, I don't know what you think. The only thing, what do you think, guys? What do you all think?
I don't even know what
Ridiculous. Jackie Vellino.
I don't even know what I think.
Keely
anymore.
Windle, agree. Pauline Mulvey-White. It's to be accommodating of non-binary, teaching staff. And on one level, I can understand that. But surely, a little bit like, say, on Instagram, on your accounts, can't people decide if they want to be called it?
This is my problem with it. I think nobody wants to be told. Nobody, no matter what group you are from, on what you can and cannot do. And yet I feel more and more there are more and more restrictions coming in. And I think people can ask, like now, people can say what their pronouns are. I mean, people now put it on their Instagram and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it was when our youngest first went back to school, she said it was really hard navigating her way around it because, of course, she hasn't been around the new language, which is more inclusive, obviously. But it's very, very scary place to be because she said if you get it wrong, it can set off a whole, array of problems, which I think is wrong because I think we are changing our language.
Yeah.
So there has to be patience around that. And I think no group of people wants to be told what they can't do or what they can't say, no matter what group you're in. I mean, what about the elderly teacher who very much wants to be called Miss, and that's the way that she has the respect of her class, and she sees it in the work. So now you're just going to say to her, you can't be called Miss. Why would we say to her, you can't, but this group of people can be? I just think we've just got to be way less judgy, way less ready to point the finger at what is the right and wrong to do. And I think we need to ease into
Absolutely.
a more inclusive
but
dialogue and language.
I never understand why we can't have the
banning. We keep banning things.
Tony Dunsford, it is complicated, but I don't understand why the teacher themselves can't decide.
say.
So, for example, like on Instagram, you're allowed to say what you are and what you identify as. I don't understand why a teacher can't stand at the front of the class and say, this is my preferred pronoun.
Yeah, because that's what we're trying to teach. Isn't that what this movement is about? Is that people can state what they're... I still think as well people should be given a little bit more leeway to get it right, because as my daughters say, it's a minefield, because there's one particular person that one of our daughters who's changed their pronouns a number of times, and if she doesn't keep up with the change of pronouns, all hell lets loose. That should not be the case. That is wrong. Because it's just not human. It's just not kind. It's like, oh yeah, no, sorry, actually, yeah, I realise it was this last week, but now it's... What's wrong with that? Why does there have to be so much anger about everything? And I think a lot of times at school, kids will form a group, I know this for a fact, and pick on somebody that's got the pronoun of somebody else wrong. Now, you can't tell me those kids are doing that from a real place of justice and wanting to give... No, this is just another form of bullying. So it's really, really important as the adults, as the grown-ups, that we are, open to it and open to the discussion in a tolerant way.
I mean, I think it's tolerant both ways. Lee makes an important point. I suspect this kind of story is manufactured by the press to stir up division and have probably taken a passing recommendation by a small charity and made out that it's the way it's going. You're absolutely right. Yeah, no, yeah. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. Yeah. I think people get very sort of aerated because they want to be aerated. But I suppose what I would say is I do think in culture, I think everyone is entitled to identify with whatever pronoun they want to identify.
Exactly.
And I think, having rules or strictures that deny that, I think is hard.
But I think as parents, it's really important that we're having the conversation with our children to be patient and to be tolerant. And if you don't understand, to question. Lee and I often have big, deep conversations around this because I'm not as informed as I want to be, and he really helps me understand a lot that I don't understand, and I'm still learning, and that's the kind of person I want to be. I want to be, do you know what, I'm confused about this. What is the situation? I don't maybe like this way that I'm but that I'm confused about this. What that? If you like that around your children, then that's how you have a more tolerant society.
Absolutely.
And you're right, and you're really good to point that out, Lee. That so often there is whipping up to cause division. Fucking this. Sometimes the way we're so controlled, aren't we?
Well, we're kind of manipulated sort of one way, and then we lurch the next way, and then we lurch that way. Judy G says, "My name is. Feel free to call me that." I mean, we used to call them Mr. I used to call my teacher just Mr. Wood. Gabrielle, you make an interesting point because we're going to.
So will we get to the point there where you won't say Mrs. My name is Mrs.
There's a recommendation by, as Lee says, one charity that they should use the word teacher as opposed to Mr., Miss, Sir, or Mrs.
Sorry, that was a phone call that just came
phone
in.
call. I just answered it rather than hung up on it. Craig Smith, thank you. Happy Valentine's for
Exactly,
yesterday.
Louise Jones.
Yeah.
Give people the teachers at the beginning of term says, this is the way that I would like to be referred to, done.
Yeah. Gabrielle makes a really important point. I don't like the word woke, but people do misunderstand what it means. It's not the PC brigade. It just means being kind and not offensive. I totally agree.
Well, we were like that, weren't we, for a while?
Yeah.
It was actually Leo that made us think about this. This was a couple of years ago when we were saying, woke. And she said, what is wrong with being woke? It's just awakened to other... And we were like, God, it is actually. We were getting... It was a very good point, melching the whole sort of PC thing together. It's being awake to other people's lives and other people's preference, waking up. That's what it means. And it's good. And, you know, and we have to be tolerant with the generations. Like our daughters, when we get it wrong, they're like, oh, for God's sake, don't you just know that by now? And then we feel that with our mums. And then we're like, oh, my God, can you believe she said that?
Yeah.
But the generations have to be patient with the generations and teach them back and forth.
Absolutely. Woke is awareness. Now,
this is awareness. That's the right word.
This is off the back of the Tory party chairman, Oliver Dowden, who was the culture secretary, saying he's denounced what he claims is a painful woke psychodrama sweeping the West, sapping its confidence, and he argues that people should not be obsessing over pronouns or trying to decolonize maths. I don't know what it means by decolonize.
Trying to decolonize maths. What does
He
that
made the
mean?
remarks on cancel culture in a speech to the Heritage
Well, I hate
Foundation.
cancel culture.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Well, and that's kind of...
Because it's fascist.
That's the kind of point that I wanted to make. You know, at what point is PC-ness PC? At what point is woke?
Awareness.
And at what point is cancel culture
Yes, very good
actually
point.
running against the idea of freedom
That's
of
the
speech?
point. I think too often, and I'm guilty of this, that I wrap up woke with cancel culture.
Yeah.
And that's doing it woke a real injustice. Because as you say, it's just a keener awareness.
Yeah.
And I suppose striving for more understanding, where cancel culture for me is fascism. It's like, do as we say or we shut you down. Do as we say or we throw you in jail. Do as we say or we burn your books. You can't even have thoughts that we don't agree with. That's cancel culture.
Yeah, and I think cancel culture does a disservice to actually genuinely woke and genuinely politically correct kind of sentiment. And I think, in a sense, it allows people like Oliver Dowden to weaponize all of it and say that this sort of more tolerant, society is actually, is pulling apart the fabric of is pulling apart the fabric of which society? Michelle Penny.
Oh, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. Is it manipulation though if it opens up conversation like this? Oh, the media presents information to us. It's up to us whether we give our freedom and accept it as a truth.
Give up our freedom.
Give up our freedom. Yeah. No, that's an interesting point. Yeah. I mean,
I suppose it is how we then... Yeah, this discussion is a good discussion that comes off the peg of that. And it is an ongoing discussion, isn't it? But the manipulation comes in where all that is... The only reason that is presented in the way that is in the press is to cause division. It's to cause arguments.
Sarah Sutton, well put. The more people joke about woke, the more it undermines it. Woke is people breaking the chain of narrow-mindedness.
Yeah.
That's all.
But it's a really good point that Mark makes. A really good point is that we are angry about cancel culture and we're grouping it in with woke, with awareness. And that, we mustn't do that. We must be really mindful of that.
Yeah. It's only me. I can't think of a single person who's been cancelled fully. It usually gives them a bigger platform.
Oh, interesting.
There has always been people facing backlash like Margaret Thatcher in mining towns. Yeah, no, that's an interesting point.
Well, there are some people that have been proper cancelled. I'm not even going to mention the names because it will get us in all kinds of like drama. But I know what you mean, because often when the girls come to us and they say, I mean, how many times has Billie Eilish been cancelled?
Well, has she?
She gets cancelled all the time.
Does she? Did
But
Chrissy
it does
Teigen
do-
get cancelled? There was something.
Chrissy T got
Yeah.
cancelled, yeah.
But I suppose you could argue they're not cancelled now.
But it's interesting what you say. I really like that. It's backlash. Is it just backlash?
Is it backlash? Yeah, maybe. Critical or just a criticism.
Is it? Oh God, I don't know now.
Kevin Spacey was
Got
cancelled.
another headache.
I think things like the Kevin Spacey
But wasn't Kevin Spacey held responsible
or accountable.
Accountable.
But
I've
that
got
said,
one
I
right
don't.
word today.
But that
Not
said, I
one.
don't think has he actually been prosecuted for anything? And I suppose that's always a dangerous territory. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
so he did get cancelled. Well, I
Perhaps,
can't remember the ins and outs
perhaps
of that
prior
story now.
to judgment. I don't know. I mean, I tell you what it reminds me of a little bit. Do you remember that terrible story many years ago when paedophile hunters attacked a house because they'd mistakenly understood the word to
psychologist
be psychologist
instead of paedophile.
and
Linda, please send your address again to Michelle.
yeah. Oh yes, please do. Yeah, we've got a load of cards that are going out soon.
We're really behind with stuff because we've been ill.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonder Woman, Chrissy
Nicola
Teigen.
Higgins, can we cancel Boris? Right. Now you're talking.
Yeah, well, yeah, but we pick and choose who we
No, I'm
want.
joking.
No, but it's interesting, isn't it? We pick and choose who is right, and then you have bedlam, don't you? It's bedlam. Wonder Woman, Chrissy Teigen encouraged a young girl to kill themselves. There, my God,
Really?
Did she? I didn't
I
realise
don't
that.
know. I'll have to look. I don't
What
know.
did they call it before the term cancelled? Helen Fatherly. Yeah, absolutely agree.
Backlash.
Backlash, yeah. The final story was just something you wanted to express your frustration with, which was this prison runaway.
Oh, what's his name, Mark?
Oh, I
Sorry,
forget.
my brain is not good today, guys. Please
Robson.
forgive me.
Paul Robson.
Paul Robson.
Escaped from an open prison.
Right,
Is that right?
so Paul Robson has escaped from a Category D prison in Lincolnshire. He is so dangerous that the police have had to put out warnings. Very dangerous to women and children, right? So what is he doing in a Category A prison, Category D prison? So he was first jailed in 1988 for assaulting a 12-year-old. Then he got an early release. In 1990, he abducted and assaulted an 8-year-old, and he was jailed for 8 years. Guess what? He got an early release. After just 5 years, he was released. He approached 2 9-year-old girls from a hostel on the street. The girls fled. He received a conditional discharge. Later in 1995, he attacked a 31-year-old woman and was jailed for 5 years. I'm so angry. In 2000, Robson broke into a 23-year-old woman's house in Oxford through a cat flap. And, well, I won't go because I don't want to scare people, but horrific. And
Why was
he
in
was
an open
only
prison?
been out 3 weeks from his previous
Oh, he was
sentence.
out. I thought he'd escaped.
No, when he attacked this woman through the cat flap. So he's had 2 life sentences he's been given.
Yeah.
Right? He's been, after 5 failed parole hearings, he was then put into this open prison in Lincolnshire and he's escaped. And he's so dangerous that people are being told not in any way to approach him. Well, what the fuck is he doing in an open
Karen
prison?
T say, well, why isn't he in for life? He was, wasn't he?
He got 2
He
life
got 2
sentences, but they don't mean life.
Yeah.
But, I mean, how many times are we sat here talking about violence towards women? And we have this today and you just think, and apparently that prison is filled with sex offenders. And, in this prison you can go out and about your business, you can go to work, you can go to higher education. And you just think a man that is so dangerous, that has kidnapped children and sexually assaulted them, that every time he's been let out, he's immediately reoffended.
I mean, it's just
I'm just
beggars
so
belief.
angry
Beggars
about it.
belief.
I feel so sorry for the women in that area at the moment. I feel so sorry for the women that he's attacked. I can't even imagine how they're feeling.
Wendy M says, I live 6 miles from open prison. He's still not found. They thought he was in Boston, but not found yet. Astonishing, isn't it?
That's what I was wondering if any of our followers were from that area, and it's just horrific.
Was he not tagged? Would he? Well, I suppose he wouldn't
in
be
an
tagged
open
if he was
prison.
in the prison, would he?
He's escaped.
No, absolutely. It's just awful. It's just awful.
How many chances does one get exactly, Jackie
Yeah.
Verlin? Look at that catalogue there. And these will be only the ones he's caught for. What does that say again to us? At the way society looks at men that are violent against women. We are constantly being told what we must do to protect ourselves. What are you doing to these men? This man should never see the light of day again. He is extremely dangerous, as the police said today, to all women and children. And yet he's out again. We should be marching in our streets in our millions. We really should. Honest to God. Something has got to change.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely
We
right.
need to stop being fucking told not to walk home in the dark. The guy came in a cat flap. How are you going to fucking protect us from these men? What are you going to do? What are you going to do, people we put in power, to protect us from these men? Fuck all, basically.
Well, there you go. And yeah, it's very worrying. And let's hope they bloody find him. I just wanted to, on that phrase, cancel culture, or cancelled, when someone's cancelled, what is another phrase? I just wanted to pick up this. I can't remember who said it. Sent to Coventry. Do you remember that? Do you remember that phrase? You'd send someone to Coventry. And I remember at school that being incredibly awful when you said...
Why was it Coventry, like as in a convent? A convent?
No, Coventry is a city.
No, I know it's a city.
But
Is there a big convent in Coventry?
I think the idea...
where they don't speak?
Alison Rhea, I was born in Coventry. Coventry was decimated in World War II. So I don't know whether it was a barren wasteland. The idea was, we're going to send you to the most depressing place in the country.
I always thought there was a really a silent, massive convent in Coventry, and that's Coventry.
Yeah.
And that's where it came from.
No. There's a little bit left, isn't there, of Coventry Cathedral. I filmed in it.
Oh, Dawny. Oh, she was often sent to Coventry, literally. What, they put you on a train to Coventry?
Oh, I see. You were literally sent to Coventry. Okay, guys. Well, it was nice to spend some time with you.
Blacklisted, that was the other phrase, wasn't it, for cancel? Yeah.
It was really nice to spend time with you. As someone said, it's been a while, hasn't it? Doing a full on coffee moaning.
Yeah. I'm not very well now.
She's
I'm
not
going to
very
have to lie down.
Yeah. Guys, have a lovely day, and something else will be landing on the channel later. So there we go. Take care, guys.
Bye.